So I can't believe that I gave you the history of Southern Democrats without telling you what they believe in, specifically as it pertains to Black civil rights. So let's talk about that, shall we? The Democratic Party, and yes, that would be the entire Democratic Party, because in the West, you've got Western Democrats who were opposing any political or social rights for Asians and Native Americans and Hispanics. Yeah, yeah. And in the South, you've got them opposing that for blacks. They identified themselves as the white man's party and demonized the Republican Party as being Negro dominated, even though whites were in control. Determined to recapture the South, Southern Democrats redeemed state after state, sometimes peacefully, oftentimes by fraud and violence. I'm looking at you, Louisiana and South Carolina. Confederate Colonel James Milton Smith was elected Georgia's governor in 1872 and returned the state to white supremacist rule. Vowed to undo the influence of post war Reconstruction misrule, and quickly partnered with the like minded legislature to roll back gains that Black Georgians had accumulated under the Reconstruction administrations. The Alabama election of 1874 restored former Confederate leaders to legislative and executive authority, ended Reconstruction in this state, and elected Governor George Houston. He led a political effort to reverse the aims of Reconstruction in Alabama and restore the dominance of the great governing race, the white people of the land. That's just two examples. By 1877, when Reconstruction was officially over because Rutherford B. Hayes sold black people down the river, the Democratic Party controlled every southern state. And immediately they began reversing the gains made by black people. Local and state laws combined to trap black people in a form of second class citizenship by mandating segregation in schools, trains, buses, motels, and restaurants, outlawing interracial marriage, authorizing economic exploitation through convict leasing and mandatory labor contracts, and barring black people from holding public office, voting in elections, or serving on juries. Southern state governments quickly went to work altering their constitutions to disenfranchise black citizens and codify racial hierarchy. From 1885 to 1908, all 11 former Confederate states rewrote their constitutions to restrict voting rights using poll taxes, literacy tests, and felon disenfranchisement. Example: after Louisiana's post Reconstruction Constitution imposed these restrictions on voting rights, the number of black registered voters dropped from 130,000 during Reconstruction to just 5,000 by 1900 and just 1,000 by 1904. And how can I forget lynching? Yeah. Lynching became the weapon of choice and a technique of enforcing racial exploitation. Between Reconstruction and World War II, thousands of blacks were lynched, often in public acts of torture. Equal Justice Initiative has documented 4,084 racial terror lynchings in 12 southern states between the end of Reconstruction in 1877 and 1950. Mississippi, Florida, Arkansas, and Louisiana had the highest statewide rates of lynching in the United States. Mississippi, Georgia, and Louisiana had the highest number of lynchings. Racial terror lynching was a tool used to enforce Jim Crow laws and racial segregation, a tactic for maintaining racial control by victimizing the entire Black community, not merely punishment of an alleged perpetrator for a crime.